Peace and blessings. The common understanding is that the biblical day begins at sunset, but I want to disprove this from the scriptures, beginning with Genesis 1, verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So it is crystal clear here that the day is the period of light. And God separated that light from darkness. And we see this separation very frequently in the scriptures. For instance, in Genesis 7, during the flood, in verse 4, it says, "For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights." So from our perspective, God could have just said, "I'm going to cause it to rain for 40 days. But he wants to be clear that this is a period of nonstop rain. If he had just said 40 days, it could be that the rain stops at night and then starts again during the day. Let's go to Exodus 10. This is the plague of the locusts. Verse 13, "And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and Yahuwah brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts." So we see here that on the first day and night, there was a strong east wind. And on the following day, the locusts came. Let's go to Deuteronomy 10. This is when Moses went to the mount the second time. Verse 10, "And I stayed in the mount according to the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. So again, we see this distinguishing the day from the night. Lastly, let's look at Matthew 4. Verse 1. "Then was Yeshua led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungry." So this separation continued when Yeshua was on the earth. So this in and of itself should be sufficient evidence to show that the day does not begin in darkness, nor is it inclusive of darkness. But let's keep going in Genesis 1 with verse 14. "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night." 16. "And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness." So this now is telling us that the reason for the creation of the sun, moon, and stars was to separate the day from the night, with the visibility of the sun serving as the indicator of the beginning and end of the day, and the visibility of the moon indicating the beginning and the end of the night. So let's go to John 11. Verse 9. "Yeshua answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles, because there is no light in him." Yeshua now confirms for us, one, that there is only 12 hours in the day, and two, that the day is the period of light. So now let's go back to Genesis, and let's deal with the point that causes the most confusion, which is, "And the evening and the morning were the fourth day." So this repetition of evening and morning is generally the basis for determining that the day begins in the evening. But let's look at this in the Hebrew. It says, "And there was evening and there was morning, day fourth." And if we go into this word, "there was," it is the Hebrew word hayah, to fall out, to come to pass, to become, or be. If we go to Genesis 2 and 7, this same word is used for Adam becoming a living being. So this marks a transition from Adam just being a figure made from dirt to becoming a living being. With that in mind, when it says, "And the evening and the morning were the fourth day," what's actually happening is God does his work during the day, and then when the evening comes, he stops, meaning God didn't work at night. And we see this exemplified in the scriptures also. Let me prove this. Let's go to Genesis 30. And this is where Leah purchased Jacob for the night for some mandrakes. Verse 16. "And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him." Let's go to Judges 19. And this is the story of when the tribe of Benjamin became Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 16. "And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at even." Let's go to John 9. Verse 4. "I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night comes when no man can work." So now, Yeshua has now confirmed that people didn't work at night. And this brings me to Mark 1. Verse 32 says, "And at even, when the sun did set, they brought unto him all that were diseased and them that were possessed with devils. And all the city was gathered together at the door. And he healed many that were sick of divers diseases, and cast out many devils, and suffered not the devils to speak, because they knew him." So we see Yeshua here working in the evening and probably into the night. And if we go to John 5, verse 16 says, "And therefore did the Jews persecute Yeshua, and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. But Yeshua answered them, My Father works hitherto, and I work." So during the creation account, God did all of his work during the day and rested on the seventh day. But based on Yeshua working at night and also on the Sabbath, considering that he says that he does only what he sees his Father do, it would appear that the fall of mankind caused God to come out of his rest and enter into a continual redemptive work of mankind. Now, what Yeshua said here in verse 17, "My Father works hitherto and I work," brings me to the actual Sabbath command. So let's go to Exodus 20, verse 8. "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your God. In it thou shalt not do any work." The emphasis here is on not doing your work, because just as Yeshua said in Matthew 12, verse 5, "Have ye not read in the law how on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless?" Why? Because the priests are permanent employees of God. It is not actually their work that they are doing on the Sabbath. It is the work of God. And the Sabbath command forbids you from doing your work. Let's go to Jeremiah 17, verse 21. "Thus saith Yahuwah, Take heed to yourselves and bear no burden on the Sabbath day. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. Neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day as I commanded your fathers." Here, he's telling them not to bear a burden on the Sabbath day. But what was he actually forbidding them from doing? Isaiah 58:13. "If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of Yahuwah, honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahuwah, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth Yahuwah hath spoken it." So Yahuwah is telling them not to do their work on the Sabbath, which is the same thing he said in the actual command. Now, to be clear, in the command, he did say to do no manner of work. But I do believe that the emphasis is on doing your own work and not on doing his work. The Sabbath day is for rest and for doing the works of Yahuwah. As Yeshua said, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath.